Before we bring Leela and Dina up, I'm just gonna say a little bit about their work. So Dina Amer is an award-winning filmmaker and journalist. She helped produce the Oscar-nominated and Emmy Award-winning documentary The Square, where the Egyptian Revolution was chronicled from the front lines. Growing up between the US and Egypt, her work has focused on sharing nuanced human stories with a global audience. Previous to her film work, Dina was a celebrated journalist. She was an on-air correspondent for Vice, including the Black Market series, where she uncovered the human trafficking of Syrian refugees and explored the underground economy of illegal Egypt Gaza tunnels. Her written work has been published in the New York Times, CNN, and the Huffington Post. You Resemble Me is her directorial debut. Leela Nazemian is an independent curator and the special projects curator at ArteArchive in New York. In 2023, she joined the Brooklyn-based Transmitter Gallery as a co-director. Her research and curatorial practice are focused on reimagining approaches to histories from the Middle East, Southwest Asia, North Africa, and Central Asia regions in an effort to counter narrative revisionism and collective amnesia. So I'm going to bring up Leela and Dina now.
And it was one of the most personal endeavors I ever embarked on in my life, and I found myself in a place where I was actually at the scene of the attack shortly after that bomb went off. I was there, and I reported. I'm like a recovering journalist. I used to be a journalist back in the day, and I reported on air for Vice News this false headline that Hasna was the first female suicide bomber, and I felt so guilty about perpetuating a fake news cycle, and I was so curious who this woman was who was at the center of it all. And I found where her mother lived, and her mother had turned away every single person that approached her door trying to speak to her, but she let me in. And that's when I really felt this is not a story about the first female suicide bomber. This is not a story about Islam. This is a story about a dysfunctional family, and a family in pain, and a woman who was really struggling with her sense of self. And that's something that I can relate to. That's something that I almost had to, I can't find another reason why someone who's not French, who didn't grow up there, but lives in New York, would in such a drastic way kind of like uproot and be there and feel like I can't work on anything else but her story, you know? And, but the gift she gave me is that if some of my wounds were like hers, feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, feeling like I was code switching or shape shifting or dissociating to belong, to fit in.
Tonight's program is co-presented with ArteArchive, and it is our fourth collaboration with ArteArchive, and the second in the context of their legacy project, Unpacking the ArteArchive, which preserves and presents 20 years of film and video programming of the organization. And tonight's program will be accompanied by an online screening on artearchive.org, which will start at midnight tonight and go on until June 18. And in addition to Sadari Group, which we will watch tonight, and to a video of tonight's discussion, there will be a selection of documentary works created by students of the Baghdad-based Independent Film and Television College, which was co-founded in 2004 by Maysoon Pashashi and Qasim Abid. I'd like to thank Beth Stryker and Jinou Shwairi, who is here, and ArteArchive for their ongoing collaboration. Tonight's screening and discussion will revisit Sada, which means echo in Arabic. It was an online and in-person ad hoc art school set up in Baghdad between 2011 and 2015 to support artists working through the aftermath of the US-led invasion and occupation. We're going to start the evening, or rather Regine and Dina will start with a few words before the screening of Sadari Group, which was commissioned by Documenta 15 in 2022, and which is 54 minutes long. The film was made nearly a decade after Sada and 2 decades after the invasion, whereby former artists of Sada came together again to reflect on their creative and disparate lives since that time. And it features videos by Sajjad Abbas, Bassem Al-Shakir, Ali Ayal, who is here tonight, and is part of a show at the gallery Brief Histories on Bowery, and Sara Munaf and Regine Sahakyan. Together, these videos comprise one experimental interconnected anthology film on individual and collective art practice in a protracted era of international warfare. After the screening, we'll have a discussion between Regine and Dina again, which I'll hope you join as well. And now I'll briefly introduce our speakers. Regine Sahakyan has written and developed programs focused on Iraq as a site of prolific engagement. Her work responds to formations of American political, military, and cultural life through propaganda disseminated to enable global violence in Iraq and to diminish Iraq's long-standing experience of and resistance to these extraordinary conditions. Sahakyan received an MA in Art and Politics from New York University, founding and directing Sada between 2010 and 15, soon after. And Dina Ramadan is continuing Associate Professor of Human Rights and Middle Eastern Studies at Bard College and faculty at the Center for Curatorial Studies. Both Dina and Regine have also contributed writing and presentations to eFlux, and it's very exciting for us to have them together this time.
Potentially the most effective way to work with the commission that we had and with the multiple members who were involved to do a video project, partially because we were all in different places at this point, partially because Documenta is a temporary event, and I thought that it might be useful to have a more permanent piece, something that could circulate after, and because Sada was also individual artists that were, came together for certain workshops and for, meetings together, but not necessarily doing a collective body of work. And so having the also ability for each individual to do something based around their own practice and experience seemed important. And because I think it's really difficult to envision or to understand what artists were going through during that period and the kind of the way that the city and working as an artist within the city, what it meant. And I had always been asked questions about, why Iraq and what's happening there, and these kinds of curiosities around it, which were difficult to hear. And also seemed very ignorant of the fact that there is so much information about Iraq if you just look for it and try to understand what is happening there. But I think also because there have been so many events that have taken place in such rapid succession that it's also difficult to sort of sit and look back on the time, the period, even for me and for some of the other, people who were involved. And so I thought that this might be a way for each of us to look back and to think about what that was during that time, and to have a kind of record of it that could be, circulated in the future.